Until then, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Vin Gupta. Dr. Gupta, the president has teased there'll be a major announcement on prescription drug prices. What do you hope to hear from him?
Well, Jonathan, what's available right now looks a lot like what was available to us, what we saw in 2020 when the president did something very similar. And as you probably remember, he ran into expected legal hurdles as a result because, as has been said just a few minutes ago, an approach to lower prescription drugs through executive order, through an agency-based approach, which is effectively what this is going to be met with legal challenges. Courts will be open to challenging this if it violates existing statutory law, versus legislation, which is, for example, what the Biden administration did, the Inflation Reduction Act, and direct pricing or direct negotiation of prices for pharmaceuticals. Now, that has been very effective. The Trump administration has actually embraced that approach. Wegovy is going to be on that list for 2027. So that's not at risk. Courts are loath to challenge legislation, statutory law when Congress has spoken, but an executive order approach is ripe for potential challenges. And you get, again, what we know coming out from his social media tweet and from some of the initial text that's been released is that he's going to talk about most favored nation pricing. What is that going to be benchmarked against, Jonathan? Which country? That's going to really mean a lot when it comes to what prices are we talking about that he's trying to set for these pharmaceuticals. Number two, this is going to be much more expansive than 2020's effort. 2020's effort was focused on drugs that you get through an IV, in outpatient clinics. Here now we're talking about potentially Part B and Part D benefits for Medicare beneficiaries. That means outpatient drugs as well. This is hugely expansive. So his language on exactly what's under scope here is going to be important.
So doctor, could you explain to us again, to people that are watching right now, why is it that drugs cost so much more in the United States than other countries, where you have people actually leaving the country to get cheaper medication? Why is it that it is so hard to pass legislation through Congress and get it signed by a president of either party to make drug pricing more competitive, not only with the rest of the world, but also for Medicare and for Medicaid?
I mean, Joe, this is the essential question that we've been battling for decades now, especially since the establishment in the 1960s of Medicare and Medicaid. Here's what I'll say, and this is being tackled in real time. The issue historically, why do Americans pay upwards of 3 to 5 times higher than the rest of the world on prescription drugs? Why was it that Wegovy cost $1,350 for a month supply on initial launch versus $92, Joe, in the UK for a month supply?
Wow.
How does that make any sense? Especially when the American taxpayer was part of the initial foundational research through NIH funding to first discover the foundations by which Wegovy was ultimately built, things like Zepbound. It doesn't make any sense. We fund and subsidize the initial investigational research. We then pay 10x. So the problem here, we can all agree, needs to be tackled. Here's the issue here, and this is what the Biden administration did really well. This is happening in real time. We did not directly negotiate, the government did not directly negotiate with manufacturers, pharmaceutical manufacturers, on prices up until quite literally last year with the Inflation Reduction Act. That was the first time Medicare was able to do that successfully. That's going to now do so, Joe, for another 10 drugs in 2027, that initial 10 of the most utilized high-cost drugs for Medicare recipients. Those prices go into effect in 2026. Encouragingly, the Trump administration has said, you know what, we like what the Biden team did. We're going to try to make it even better. Wegovy is going to be on that, one of the most popular weight loss drugs. So this is an approach, again, that is legislated. It's going to be a statutory law. Congress has spoken. And this is the crux of the issue. To answer your question, why are drug prices so high? We, unlike every other country, with some exclusions across the world, have not negotiated drug prices with manufacturers.
President Trump is at the podium now. Let's